everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be touching on organic chemistry. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes, which are three kinds of hydrocarbons. So to start, we actually need to know what exactly a hydrocarbon is. So by definition, a hydrocarbon is any organic chemical compound composed of only the elements carbon and hydrogen, or we can say that it contains carbon and hydrogen bonds. So I'm going to whip up a few examples just at the bottom here. We're going to look at two compounds. Our first compound is CO2 or carbon dioxide, and also this is the structure of carbon dioxide. Now this compound does contain carbon, right? It's often said that an organic compound is just any compound that contains carbon. But carbon dioxide isn't actually an organic compound because it doesn't contain carbon and hydrogen bonds. Whereas on the other hand, let's look at a different example. We have CH4 and its name is methane, and I'm just going to draw its structure. And we can see that it also contains a carbon atom. But what makes it different from carbon dioxide, making one organic and one not? So this carbon actually has 4 hydrogen bonds. It doesn't have anything wacky, only singular bonds. But yes, because the carbon is bonded to hydrogens, it makes methane an organic compound. Alright, first we're going to be looking at alkanes. What is an alkane? Alkanes are organic compounds that consist entirely of single bonded carbon and hydrogen atoms and lack any other functional groups. And a very important thing in this definition is single bonded, because that is one of probably the biggest or easiest to differentiate. Alkane is the only hydrocarbon group that consists only of single bonds. If there are any other kind of bonds, it is not considered an alkane. So one thing to note is that alkanes are often considered saturated hydrocarbons. Now alkanes are considered saturated because all 4 valencies of each carbon atoms in alkanes are bonded. In other words, each carbon atom in an alkane is bonded to a maximum number of atoms. Alright, so there is actually a general formula for each of the 3 groups. And in alkenes case, the general formula is CnH2n plus 2, where N is your number of carbon atoms. Alright, so let's use an example. And the name of this alkane is ethane. So if we wanted to convert this structural diagram into a chemical formula, we would count how many carbon atoms there are. In ethane, there are 2 carbon atoms. So when we convert ethane to its chemical formula, we replace the N for 2, and then we do a little bit of algebra, getting 6. So the chemical formula of ethane is then C2H6. And I forgot to draw a hydrogen bond again, but if we do decide to count the hydrogens and carbons just to make sure we are correct, we would have counted 2 carbon atoms, and each of these bonds are actually bonded to hydrogen atoms, but the hydrogen atom is often not shown because it is simply assumed if there is nothing at the endpoints of these bonds, it is a hydrogen atom. And therefore we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, meaning our formula is correct. Now moving on, let's talk about alkenes. So an alkene is an unsaturated hydrocarbon that shares a double bond at a carbon site. Put into simpler words, alkenes have double bonds between carbon atoms. And these double bonds are why they are considered unsaturated, unlike alkanes. So the stability of an alkene is relatively stable, but less stable than an alkane. Alright, and the general formula for an alkene is CnH2n, where again, N is always the number of carbon atoms. Okay, so then let's give an example for this again. This is ethene, who is a alkene. And once again, let's count the number of carbon atoms and substitute it for N in our equation. So let's substitute 2 for N. Now we do some algebra, then we do some simple multiplication, and we would get the chemical name of C2H4. Now let's see if this is correct. 2 carbon atoms, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens, meaning our chemical formula is correct. Now last but not least, we have alkynes. Similarly to an alkene, They are unsaturated hydrocarbons that share triple bonds at a carbon site. Or simply put, there is at least one triple bond in the hydrocarbon. Now, alkynes are the least stable out of the group, less stable than alkenes. Now, our general formula for alkynes is CnH2n-2. Now, again, with the 2 carbon atom hydrocarbons, this is ethine. We can distinguish that it's an alkyne because of the triple bond between these 2 carbon atoms, or in this case, the only carbon atoms. And we only have 2 hydrogen bonds. Now let's put this into the equation. Substitute N for 2 again. Simple algebra, getting the number 2. So our chemical formula for ethine is C2H2. And we already counted that there's 2 hydrogen atoms and 2 carbon atoms. So that is a summary on the differences between alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes, all types of hydrocarbons, which are organic compounds. Now, of course, there are more differentiations between the 3, but these are the most, I would say, basic ones. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much and have a great day.